Happy free agency, folks, and welcome into the Chiefs Report. I am Harrison Graham. Today's show is sponsored by RexMD. I had to get up early, and if you need to get it up more often, go to rexmd.com/chat. They are the #1 leader in men's telehealth. All right, let's get to today's show. I want to kind of take a look at some last-minute free agent targets as free agency, at least the tampering period, deals start to happen today, at 11 a.m. Central Time. We'll look at some internal guys first, and then we'll look at some external options. Let's start internal with, obviously, the big one, Orlando Brown at offensive tackle. I told you guys on Sunday the chatter had kind of quieted down around him. Kind of more of the same. I don't really know what to expect at this point with Orlando Brown. I would like to bring him back, but I don't really have huge expectations. I think it's 50-50. I think the Chiefs will let him see what his market is, and if he doesn't get what he wants, he could come back to Kansas City. Keep an eye on this one for the next day or two. JuJu Smith-Schuster is a player that the Chiefs would like to bring back. That has been well documented and reported. I like JuJu. I thought he brought some good things to the table this past season, over 900 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's a good player. I don't think he's a wide receiver one, but you don't necessarily need that right now when you have Travis Kelce. And according to other reports, the Chiefs think Kadarius Toney can elevate to wide receiver one as soon as this year. So I would bring back JuJu. It'll come down to pricing, and he might get overpaid since it's a weak free agent class. All right, pick one to re-sign. If it comes down to one player, who do you want to bring back? Type OB for Orlando Brown or JuJu for JuJu Smith-Schuster. Let me know down in the comments. Let's go to the next player here. A player we haven't talked a ton about, probably someone we should have talked about more, but we'll talk about him here. Juan Thornhill, who took on a leadership role during this season in that secondary that started for much of the year, rookie corners. He's a free agent now. I would like to bring him back. I'm afraid he might get priced out. Obviously, Brett Veach has to pick and choose who to prioritize, and Thornhill may not be high on that priority list. I'd like to bring him back, but we'll have to see what his market is. Mecole Hardman is someone I'm very confident will not return, and not because I got anything against Mecole Hardman. I like Mecole Hardman. It's just that once they traded for Kadarius Toney, he kind of became expendable because they do similar things, and Toney honestly has a bigger ceiling and is under contract for 3 more years. Obviously, they drafted Sky Moore as well. I like Hardman, but it was a frustrating year for him in 2022 with the pelvic injury. He had offseason groin surgery. I think he signs elsewhere. I think a team may throw some decent money, $8 to $10 million at him for that speed, and that's just not a contract worth paying if you're Brett Veach right now. You've got Sky Moore, you've got Kadarius Toney, you don't need Mecole Hardman back in the fold. Next up is Andrew Wylie, who, listen, if you lose Orlando Brown, bringing back Wylie to at least stabilize right tackle could make sense. Now, I say this with the caveat of I don't completely know how the Chiefs feel about Lucas Niang. There's not been a lot of topic around him, but the first half of 2021, before he had a torn pec, he played pretty well at right tackle. But then Andrew Wylie stepped in, played pretty solid, had the job all year this year, and was solid. I said it a month ago. I think Wylie could be one of those players that gets a little bit overpaid, but if Orlando Brown walks and you don't have that big contract, maybe you're willing to give an Andrew Wylie $8-9 million. So we'll see what happens there. I think a lot of that will be dictated based on what happens with Orlando Brown. 5 more internal free agents, then we'll go to some external free agent targets. Jerick McKinnon. I think most of Chiefs Kingdom would agree bringing back Jerick McKinnon makes way too much sense. Isaiah Pacheco has elevated to your starting running back. You've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire under contract, but they're not going to pick up the 5th-year option. And McKinnon's a more natural RB2 with the way he can catch the football and block. I would like to bring him back, set up Thunder and Lightning for another season with Pacheco and McKinnon. What do you guys think? Will the Chiefs re-sign Jerick McKinnon? Type Y for yes or type N for no. I'd be surprised if they didn't. I think it'll be a vet minimum type of deal. So, yeah, I think he'll be back in the fold. Carlos Dunlap is next up, as I thought the veteran pass rusher did some solid things this past year, had 4 sacks as a rotation guy. If he's cheap, I'd like to bring him back. I don't know if he's going to try to, not get a big contract, but maybe get a little bit more than what the Chiefs could pay. That's certainly a possibility. We'll have to wait and see what's in store for him. Before we get to our next player, let's talk a little bit more about RexMD. Fellas, do you sometimes lack confidence in the bedroom? Well, we've all had those nights where we get a little bit too nervous or have maybe had too much to drink. There's nothing worse than not being able to put the stick shift and drive when you need it the most. But have no fear, RexMD is here, spreading cheer even when you've had too many beers. RexMD is FDA approved and the most trusted leader in men's telehealth. They have sponsored today's Chiefs Report to help you always be prepared. RexMD has made it simple, easy, and cost-effective to help all men out there last longer and feel more confident in the bedroom. RexMD makes getting generic and branded Viagra and Cialis easy. Everything is online, even the prescription, and they deliver it discreetly to your door. No waiting rooms, no embarrassing trips to the doctor, no insurance, and no copay. So take advantage of their best deal they have offered ever and save up to 90% off and pay only $2 per dosage with our exclusive link. Got to go to rexmd.com/chat. That is rexmd.com/chat. Starter packs of generic Viagra or Cialis are now available to get our listeners started. That is rexmd.com/chat for up to 90% off and only $2 per dosage. Go check it out. Link in the description and in the comments section below. Okay, we'll go to our next internal free agent here. That is Khalen Saunders, the defensive tackle, who I really like. He broke out this year after not being a bust, but being kind of underwhelming the first 3 years of his rookie contract, but played well this year. I'd like to see him back. Derrick Nandi, also the other one tech on this team. I do not expect both to be back. I think probably one returns. I would prefer Saunders, but he might be more pricey as well, so that could play a role. And then Justin Watson, just someone I want to mention. I think he'll be back for a cheap minimum type of deal. I like him as a depth receiver. Patrick Mahomes likes him, so I think he'll be back in the fold. Okay, let's shift to some free agent targets, some external guys. Let's start with Yannick Ngakoue, who spent this past season with the Colts after getting traded from Vegas before last season. I like Ngakoue a lot. He is the epitome of consistency. He has 8 or more sacks in every year of his 7-year career. I think he's only going to be 30 this year. Like, he's still a young player. 9.5 sacks last year, 10 the year before. I mean, this guy is rock solid, and I don't feel like he gets talked about nearly enough. He's not a great run stopper. I get that. But for a guy who can just put his hand in the dirt and rush the passer, he's not elite, but he's like in that next tier. He is really, really good, especially with Frank Clark exiting here. I would really like to bring Ngakoue in. Donovan Smith, let's talk about him at left tackle. We talked about him a week or so ago as, Orlando Brown didn't get franchise tagged. It's possible he leaves, and if he does, Donovan Smith is probably your best free agent option. Now, the Chiefs could opt to go to the draft. They could, trade for someone, wait and see if a guy like Tyron Smith gets released by Dallas. Who knows what happens there, but I think in terms of free agents right now, Donovan Smith, who struggled in 2022, but before that was pretty rock solid at Tampa at left tackle. Jessie Bates, just kind of wanted to throw this one in here. You might lose Juan Thornhill. Obviously, Bates would be expensive. And look, let me just say this. I would be pretty surprised if he came to Kansas City, but Jessie Bates is a damn good player, one of the best safeties out there, which is why you're probably not going to get him, because he might get $15 million per year. I mean, several teams are going to be interested. I don't think he's going to return to Cincinnati. Again, I'd be shocked if he came here, but who knows? Maybe Brett Veach, for some reason, wants to lock up that back end even more. Jessie Bates next to Justin Reed and these corners could be interesting, but I'd be surprised if this team had 2 high-paid safeties on it. They're already paying Justin Reed like $10 million per year. Subscribe to the channel now because NFL free agency is here. This is the time to lock in. Chiefs news, rumors, signings, free agency tracker. We'll have some free agency grades as signings start to pile up. So hit that subscribe button. We're not going anywhere. Lock into the Chiefs Report. Another one here is Adam Thielen, the wide receiver who got cut by Minnesota last week as a cap casualty. I think is a decent, cost-effective vet option. That's not bad if you get Adam Thielen. Like, say you lose JuJu because he's too expensive. Well, go sign Adam Thielen for like $7 or $8 million. He had 700 yards last year and 6 touchdowns. He's 33, but he knows how to play. He knows how to get open. I think him and Mahomes would get on the same page pretty quickly. And as like a secondary option on this offense, you could do a lot worse than Adam Thielen. Odell Beckham Jr. obviously is a player we have to mention. The Chiefs attended his workout on Friday as he worked out, I think it was out in Arizona, in front of about a dozen teams. The Chiefs were one of them in attendance. They've been linked to him since last season when he was potentially going to come back midseason, but ultimately did not. Obviously did not play last year at all. And, his production in recent years has been kind of underwhelming because he hasn't been available a lot. He's torn 2 ACLs in the past 4 years. So, that's something to consider here. There was a report out there that he might want $20 million, and I'm just like, I don't know if that makes sense. So we'll see if Kansas City is a team that's interested. I don't think they will be at that price, but maybe an incentive type of contract, which we've talked about before, where maybe like $10 million is guaranteed and then incentives up to 15 or 20, that could possibly be in the works. So should the Chiefs sign OBJ? Type OBJ for yes, type NOBJ for no. Let me know. Here's what you guys think. I'd rather bring back JuJu, but if JuJu gets too expensive, maybe OBJ is a fallback option if his market isn't great. All right, 5 more here. Arden Key, the defensive lineman. Last couple of years, he's played really well. In 2021, the Niners kind of threw a flyer signing on him, played solid there as a rotation guy. Did the same thing in Jacksonville last year. I think he had 6.5 sacks. His pressure rate was high. Great rotation guy. I think ideally he's your number 5 defensive lineman where he can kick inside some, he can play edge some. Big fan of his game is a kind of spot pass rusher. Jermaine Eluemunor, right tackle from the Raiders. I think he has got a higher ceiling than a guy like Andrew Wylie, but may not cost as much. That could be in the works. I thought he played pretty well last year for Vegas. I don't know if the Chiefs view him as a scheme fit, but if the Raiders don't bring him back, this is a sneaky name I would monitor in free agency. How about Dalvin Tomlinson at defensive tackle? He would be a more expensive one-tech option next to Chris Jones. We've mentioned Khalen Saunders and Derrick Nandi. Tomlinson would certainly cost more, but he's a really good player, has decent pass rush ability too for a one-tech. So intriguing, probably too expensive for the Chiefs, but someone to monitor. How about Robert Quinn, a player we have not talked about in months? We talked about him a lot a year ago in 2021 as a potential trade target, even at the trade deadline this past year. But he really struggled for Philadelphia and Chicago a year ago, only had 1 sack. But he's kind of the every other year guy. That's kind of what he's been his whole career. 2019, 11.5 sacks. Gets paid by the Bears. Stinks his first year there. Second year, 18.5 sacks. Now, I'm not banking on that, having just 1 sack this year, but it wouldn't shock me at all if he would have 6 to 8 sacks or so, because every time he's been declared done, he bounces back with the big season. He's still not that old. I think he's 32, so Robert Quinn might be cheap, and he might, be able to play the Carlos Dunlap role for you. Bobby Wagner, I'll just mention him. I don't think you really need a linebacker. You've got Willie Gay and Nick Bolton, but if he wants to come be a vet guy on a championship caliber team, then, this is a team that can do just that. And I would have to think that Steve Spagnuolo can find a place for Bobby Wagner. He's still really good. You can move some things around. So just someone to consider as a veteran option. Okay, there you go. Some internal and external free agent targets. Who will be the first player the Chiefs sign when free agency opens later today? 12 Eastern, 11 Central. Predict it for us in the comment section. And be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications as signings come in. We'll hit you guys with a video. At some point, we'll go live this week. I don't know if it'll be today or later in the week, but make sure that notification bell is turned on so you know exactly when we go live. I'm Harrison Graham. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you soon.